Hey guys, so today's video, I don't know how this is going to go because I was going to do a reaction or a re-reaction in a way because I've seen it before but not for a long time. The Brendan Dassey confession and interview with police around Teresa Halbach's murder. And the reason I've been considering doing that is because I've been watching a lot of Bruce Rivers, who is a lawyer who reacts to a lot of criminal cases, and a lot of them used to be the JCS stuff, which I have mentioned before I'm a fan of. It reminded me of this Making a Murderer TV show and how, in my opinion, the police of, I believe it was Manitowoc County, really fucked up, because I think we are never going to truly know what happened and why because of the way they dealt with that case. And I have no idea if Stephen Avery was involved. I have no idea if Stephen Avery is innocent. But what I will say is Brendan Dassey, in my mind at least, his confession was complete fabrication, and I'm going to go through why I think that is and why I think an innocent person is currently sitting in prison and has been since they were about 17, 18. I think he might have even been younger. The reason I say it is because I know that he was being interviewed by police around 2006 and he is now 34, so he's the same age as I am. He went to prison when I just got out from secondary school. I wanted to go through some of the key things he said during his confession and the reasons why I don't believe it. Because a little bit of background, I've mentioned this in other videos as well. I've been watching these kind of documentaries. I don't know why. It's one of those things that the scarier something is, like sharks or spiders or murderers and things like that, in some ways they almost fascinate me. Like I want to know more about it to understand it so that it lessens my fear. I don't know. But I've been watching these sort of criminal cases since I was 14, 15. There has been a case, I don't remember what the case was exactly, like what the names were or anything like that, because obviously I was very, very young. We're talking like almost 20 years ago. But it's something that stuck with me. And the second I saw Brendan Dassey admit to murdering Teresa Halbach, I immediately flashed back to seeing a documentary where a little girl of around, I don't know, probably between 10 and 13 or something, had been killed. And these little kids between the ages of, again, like 10 to 14, there was like 3 little boys that were being interrogated, not interviewed, interrogated by police. One of these little boys turned around to a police officer and admitted he did it. And when the police officer said, "How many times did you stab this girl?" they threw out a number which was way more or way less. I can't remember which way it was, but it was nothing like what actually happened. And they did that because they just wanted to get out of that room. They wanted to say anything they could to get out of that room. And that's the problem you have with interviewing or interrogating children, is that they don't know. They think that police are there to protect them. That's what you're taught as a child. You're not taught to know that if you are being interrogated for a murder, they're not your friend. They're not going to do something to help you. And from what I understand, Brendan Dassey was not at the capable level of someone his age. I think he had some sort of learning disability which caused him to be more of the age of around what these kids were that I saw being interviewed. So when I saw his interview, I'm not going to watch the interview because it's like 4 hours long. I don't want to cherry pick and miss something, so I'm going to go through what Wikipedia says word for word. We can break that down instead. I'm also going to go through who I think should have been investigated and why. So let's get into this. Just a little bit of background. The reason this is such a badly dealt with case is because Stephen Avery was convicted of a rape charge and was in prison for like 14 to 18 years or something. I can't remember the exact year. I think it was 18 years. And when the DNA evidence was finally looked at, they found out it was not him. It was another person who was out on bond or bail.
He goes on and he says, referring to you, he then told me that in 95 or 96, Andy Colburn had told Tom Kusorek, former Manitowoc County Sheriff, that an officer from Brown County had told Colburn that Allen and not Avery might have actually committed the Bernston assault.
They basically had it out for him for a really long time. There was a lot of key, obvious evidence and witness testimony that did not line up whatsoever. He got released from prison and then he decided to sue the county for wrongfully imprisoning him. They took that very, very, very fucking personally. The reason I said this didn't go well because he was living in the county he was suing, which can be a problem. I remember there was a sketch artist, for example, around this rape case who sketched Stephen Avery apparently as the witness testimony, and it's not even what he looked like at that time of the rape case. It was a picture, if I remember rightly, of him when he was put in jail for like a few days or something due to aggravated assault or indecent exposure or something because of peeing outside. I can't remember, but it wasn't even what he looked like at the fucking time. But because it looked like his charge sheet from previously, they used that as evidence. And also the fact that even though it was proved that they convicted the wrong fucking person with DNA evidence, the guy still had that fucking picture up on his wall as a look how good I am because I was able to put this person in prison. It was very, very, very fucking strange. So that's the reason that this case went awry, is that the people that were investigating this case, deceased woman, Teresa Hallbuck, they were not ever meant to be involved, and they were heavily involved. They were involved in finding pieces of key evidence after days of searching from other counties' police departments. They were involved a lot when they shouldn't have been. And because of that, I think it should have caused a mistrial. I think that this should have been investigated a lot more thoroughly. I know that the documentary apparently did not include a number of key pieces of items that does show that Stephen Avery possibly was involved. So that's why I said I have no idea if he did it or not. And my problem is I don't know if we will ever fucking know because of the way this case was dealt with so poorly and the chains of evidence and the, like I said, police departments who should not have been involved because they had this suing issue at that time. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, Teresa Hallbuck was reported missing by her parents in November of 2005. She had been last seen October 31st. She was known to have visited the Avery Salvation Yard. She was a photographer, from what I remember, so she was photographing a car or something. Following discovery of her RAV4, her car, partially concealed on the Avery property, police sheriff conducted a search and found the charred remains of Hallbuck. Not in the car, by the way. This is another thing that doesn't make sense, is that the car was just left on the property to be found by anyone because the Avery family allow the police to go onto the property multiple fucking times, allow anybody to go and search, but the body was taken way further away and burned in a barrel. There's a lot of things that don't line up. Her cell phone, license plates and car key were also recovered, and again I think this was around where her body was. On November 15th, after Avery's blood was found in her vehicle, Avery was charged with the kidnapping and murder of Hallbuck, mutilation of corpse and illegal possession of a firearm. This was shown in the second series. Again, I have no fucking clue if this is the case or not, but again, because of the way this case was dealt with, there is no way for us to ever know. From the original trial on the rape case, Steve's blood was taken, and when they went into the box, they found that the syringes, there had been a hole poked in the top of it where blood could have been taken. Scientists don't do that. They log things properly. They take tape off. They take something out. They'll say how far something's gone down. They'll retape it. They'll seal it properly. There being this tiny pinprick that looked exactly like a needle had been stuck through showed that it was possible. I'm not saying it happened necessarily because, like I said, I don't think there's any way for us to ever know, but it is a possibility that someone took blood either in an incorrect way or at least opens the possibility that someone could have planted. During the investigation, DASSEY, Avery's alibi, underwent a series of interrogations without counsel or a parent present. So that's the first big issue I had with this case. Unfortunately, it happens a lot. Again, especially children, they trust police and they don't think they need someone there when they know they haven't done anything wrong. Police aren't your fucking friends. They're there to do a job, and unfortunately, some innocent people do get caught up incorrectly because they have one agenda, is to get the person that did this, however it happened. And if they think you're the suspect, they will do anything in their power to get you. And that is my concern with this case, is that they didn't do enough investigating on at least 3 other suspects that they should have. Although DASSEY and his mother consented to the interrogation, in which investigators made false promises to DASSEY using approved interrogation techniques. While being interrogated, DASSEY confessed in detail of being a co-conspirator in the rape and murder of Hallbuck and the mutilation of her corpse. His confession was later described as clearly involuntary in a constitutional sense by a US magistrate judge whose opinion was overturned by an appellant court. So a judge, a US magistrate judge, also agrees that it was a clearly involuntary confession. So what that means is this person admitted to something they never would have admitted to because they felt they had to basically get police off their back, because they were not of the right mind that if I admit to murder, that means I'm going to prison. Not if I admit to something, they'll let me go home. That was the mindset we're talking about, because this person was not at the capability of someone who was actually 17, 18 years old. And the thing is, if you throw out Brendan's confession, there's no evidence around his confession. There's no evidence he was there. There's not even any evidence that backs up his confession. He admitted, I can't remember if it was on a phone call or if it was in the interrogation room when it was just him and his mum, but I remember him saying that he read it in a book. He read this sort of stuff in a book, and he was just saying the first thing that came to mind so that these police would let him go home. Dassey was interrogated on 4 occasions over a 48-hour period, including 3 times in 24-hour time frame. That's a lot. And that's a lot of pressure. And each time he had no legal representative. So again, that's really bad. Dassey had been clinically evaluated as being highly suggestible, meaning if you interrogate someone who is highly suggestible, like a child, they'll just tell you what you want to hear, which makes a suspect more compliant and can ultimately lead to improper interrogation outcomes such as false confessions. Dassey recanted his confession and informed his defence counsel. He later charged that his first defence counsel collaborated with the prosecution to get Dassey to plead guilty. This 100%, I believe, because there was an interview with Brendan and his defence counsel, and rather than doing what Brendan wanted, which was he wanted to plead not guilty because he didn't do this, in his words, that defence counsel got him to draw a picture of what they apparently did to this woman, which, like I say, there is no evidence, no physical evidence to back any of the claims up in the confession or from that picture at all. I don't know why it's not in here, which is really annoying, but from memory, in Brendan's confession, he admits to Teresa being taken and put into a trailer that was behind the Avery house, that they chained her to a bed, that they shaved her head, that they cut off her head or slit her throat, I can't remember.
And go through what happened again.
We went in there, we tied her up, and he stabbed her, and he told me to cut her throat and cut her hair off, and we put her on the floor, and then he shot her 10 times, and he threw her in the fire.
Because the police officers that were interrogating Brendan got frustrated, they outright said, who shot her? They put that out there. And Brendan wasn't going to admit he killed someone. So he said he did, or Stephen did. The bullet that was recovered was found in the garage. There was no evidence other than that bullet that Teresa was ever in that garage, and no DNA, nothing. There is no even tiny piece of evidence or DNA of Teresa's in that trailer. There was no chains, no grooves to show that there was chains even on a bed. There was nothing that backed up any of those claims, and yet they convicted this person. To me, if a confession, even if someone confesses, it should still be shown that the confession makes sense because they found this matches. There was none of that. Nothing made sense about this. They pushed quite hard to get the confession thrown out, but it didn't. And that really hurt their defence. They've gone through so many courts to get this appealed and to get this looked at again, because whether Stephen was involved or not, there is nothing that shows Brendan was involved in any of it, bar a confession which even a judge has said was clearly coerced.
A little update. I'm in the middle of editing. I found that Brendan is actually due to be released because, as you can see here, it says that he is to be released from prison. The federal judge, William Duffin of Wisconsin, also responsible for overturning Dassey's conviction earlier this year and ordered him to be freed from prison immediately. He is to remain under supervision with a view to further court developments. So I think that's incredible news. It's a shame that even though a judge has ordered for Brendan to be released, he is still in prison. But I'm hoping that he's going to be released soon, because, as I said, I don't for a second believe that he was involved in any of this. There's a lot of people that should have been investigated properly. This whole trial should have been thrown out, considering police departments who never should have been involved were highly involved in the investigation and in finding key pieces of evidence, which apparently after days and days of searching, no one else found, which I find really strange. Something else I forgot to mention around the supposed death of Teresa Hallbuck, you know, that she was apparently in multiple different rooms. She was in a trailer and then she was in the garage when she was killed, etc. These residences weren't tidy. They were full of clutter and rubbish, and it would have been impossible to not find a single piece of evidence if she had truly fucking been there. That's one of the reasons why I really, truly doubt this ever fucking happened. But it definitely didn't happen the way that Brendan said. So I believe him to be innocent. I do, but Let me know what you guys think.
So, there are 3 people that I believe should have been investigated, and I will tell you the reasons why. The first one is Michael Horbuck, which is Teresa's brother. Now, I know it sounds strange, but her brother would only appear in press conferences. He also appeared shifty and suspicious whenever he was on camera. So the thing that I find the strangest about her brother, I'm not necessarily saying her brother did it, he and the ex-boyfriend who participated in searching for Teresa, and the boyfriend was Ryan Hilligers. The reason I find them 2 weird is because, firstly, they put together this search while she was missing, which makes sense in a way because that being her brother. What I find strange is that they were able to get into her voicemail. I'm pretty sure, if I remember rightly, they deleted voicemails. It says here, in the 2007 trial, he admitted to listening to his sister's voicemails after breaking into her inbox in an attempt to learn more about where she had last been. Far-fetched theory claims he either deleted the messages or worked with Ryan to erase them. See, that's what scares me. Ryan is a main suspect, like in the theories. See, partners are always the first fucking suspect. And the fact that he was heavily involved in her search, even though he was an ex-boyfriend, which seems a bit strange. The reason I keep hounding on about that is the fact that people who have just murdered someone like to be heavily involved, or at least slightly involved, in the investigation of a death or a missing persons because they like to be close to their crime. It gives them a sense of satisfaction. The fact that he never was asked for an alibi the day she was murdered is really fucking weird. So something around the messages, a network engineer testified the mailbox didn't appear to contain enough messages for it to fill capacity. I'm guessing in his trial at some point he said that the reason they looked at the inbox is because it was full. The fact that a network engineer said that's not true immediately should have raised some red flags. So people think that Ryan was stalking Teresa and hacked into her phone in a bid to delete a number of incriminating messages, which I concur, because otherwise why the fuck did messages just disappear? There was also that juicy bit of information that Ryan was in possession of a day planner, which Kathleen, which is Stephen's new defense attorney, claims was in Teresa's car when she was killed. So how the fuck did he have it? Oh yeah, they're the roommate as well. Fuck, I forgot about him. Scott Blodorn. Not only did he fail to report her missing despite the fact that he lived with her, she'd been gone for a few days, but he was uncovered after the first season that the pair had been in a sexual relationship. Scott remains shrouded in mystery regarding his interaction with Teresa. He was best friends apparently with Ryan as well. It wouldn't be surprising if it was something to do with them too. But the ones I find the most fucking fishy, or at the very least should have been looked at for something, is the stepdad of Brendan Dassey, Scott Haddock, Brendan Dassey's brother. The reason I find these 2 really, really fucking suspect. Firstly, their alibi for her murder is that they passed each other in their trucks on a road. Like, they saw each other going past each other at a specific time. Really fucking weird. Secondly, the stepdad, he wasn't Brendan's stepdad at the time. I don't know if he got involved with Brendan's mum before or after, I can't recall. But what I will say is that he now lives, or at the time of the last season anyway, season 2, he then lived at Brendan's home, which is very fucking close to where Teresa Horbuck died, or at the very least where she went missing. And again, this is if someone wanted to be close to their crime, this could be another way to do it. The brother should have been looked into a lot more, because a computer from the Dassey home was impounded by the police. And you know what was found on it? A CD with data from the Dassey family computer with a slew of sinister and violent pornographic searches were made at a time when reportedly only Bobby was at home, aka the brother. So why the fuck did we not think maybe the brother could have been involved? The nature of the case and the fact that Barb and the Dassey family had been through so much with Brendan's incarceration, tensions were running high. As such, once the motion had been filed and an explosive phone call made by Scott and Barb to Stephen showed just how pissed they were at Kathleen's determination to leave no stone unturned. I'm sorry, but if one of your sons was involved and the wrong son is in prison, I would want that investigated. If my child did something wrong and killed somebody, I would want to fucking know. I would want everything looked at. Unfortunately, in cases like this, to get to the actual truth, people are going to get hurt. People are going to be pissed off. That's the only way you can actually get to the truth. And that's my concern, is that there is so much that was not properly looked at, so much that people that should have been investigated, that should have been interviewed, police didn't do their job. And they didn't do their job because they didn't want this suit to go through. In Stephen's defense, now, like I said, I know there's a lot of evidence out there. I appreciate that. I'm not defending every single piece of evidence. But in Stephen's defense, most people, majority of murderers at least, don't kill someone just for the sake of killing them. They don't think, let's just kill someone today. It's a crime of passion, a crime of revenge, which There was neither around Stephen and Brendan. You could say there's opportunity, but again, why? What's the motive? But there's always tends to be motive from ex-boyfriends, roommates, ex-lovers. Those are always the first suspects. Watch any fucking case. Watch any JCS case. Watch anything from crime sort of documentaries. They're always the first point of call. They may actually have alibis and they may have reasons why they definitely didn't do it, but they're always the first suspects. Always. And the fact that some of these people weren't even asked to give alibis simply because Stephen Avery was involved, because she was on his property at a time before her murder, just shows you that this was not looked at properly. I feel for the Hallbuck family, because even though I believe they think they have the murderers behind bars, I don't think they'll ever truly know what happened or why it happened. And what scares me is, similar to the rape case, there could be someone out there who did do this, who is just living their fucking life. And if that's the case, that's really fucking sad, because justice was not served for her and her death. Anyway, that's everything for today. If you did like this video, make sure to give us a like and subscribe if you like it. I'd really appreciate it. If there's any specific crime sort of documentaries or anything like that you want me to break down, I know this one was a little all over the place. I was hoping to do a reaction and I was searching for 15 minutes to find like a highlighted breakdown of like 15 to 20 minutes, maybe even half hour of the interview to go through, but there wasn't anything that I could find. So they were all like an hour to 4 hours long minimum. I just wasn't going to be able to react to that fresh. So this is what you have for today. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video and I hope to see you in the next one.